I appreciate everybody coming again. For those who are new, my name's Matt Zacher. My goal always with these is to get as much information to people that I can on what's going on specifically at the time in the city, resources, utilities, stuff like that, content stuff as much as possible. Keep clarifying facts, I guess I want to get out there, or statements, I guess. I was told, I think I talked about this already, there was one point in time when I said, I don't care about if we have a data center, if we don't. I don't care about what's the wrong terminology. I think my perspective on that is just that it's not my job, it's not my position to take a stand one way or the other. This is how I feel about it. My job is to listen to everybody in the city, take all the different opinions, and try to incorporate that into long-term vision for the city, and also abide by the rules that are set in place to allow business to run in the community or anybody else for that matter. So sometimes I get frustrated with this. Sometimes I am human. I am learning this position still after 2.5 years. I've never been in this position before where, I'm sitting there for, it's been about at least 8 hours now between 4 meetings and shooting off the cuff, trying to talk to people with anger and frustration. It's, trying to do my job and be professional and stay calm. By nature, I am a bit of a fighter, so it's always hard for me to hold my tongue and not fight back when people I feel like are attacking me personally. But I've come a long way in understanding that this isn't personal, this is a job. It's the mayor's position, and whoever would be sitting in this position right now would be the one that's under fire, not necessarily Matt Zacher. So I'm understanding that. So please allow me some latitude if I use the wrong words at some points in time. Bring them up to me so I can correct them or at least elaborate on them. I appreciate that. If you allow me to do that. The other thing is, Mike, I'm glad you're here. I think there's some stuff going on still with Von Reason and Chris Smith being the attorney that we asked to be a part of that. We can look into these things. We asked Ellers, who is a company that works with most municipalities in terms of getting bonding set up and things what municipalities need. So they're very well connected, and we reached out to them and talked to them about who's been involved in data center development and working with the communities, working with data centers, understanding what's being asked, working with the communities and populations, seeing the momentum of the anger that's been building behind data centers, trying to figure out where that's coming from and how that's all happening. So Chris Smith is the guy who through Von Reason became the guy who just worked with a lot of different cities in this process. Mike has done a good job getting more information on Chris specifically and things that he's done in the past. He's mentioned it in past meetings. We had a situation where he sued a lady who was, in his opinion, I asked him about it, she was lying about it. She was slandering him on social media and to other people. And so he sued her. And it went to court, and the judge said, well, you have proven without a doubt that she was lying. But you're a representative of a government agency, so therefore you're held to a higher standard. You can't sue her. You can't sue anybody. So in that sense, like us, I guess as the mayor, we don't have that option. People can say whatever they want, no matter how much of a lie it is, no matter how much trouble it is, and we can't do anything about it. We just have to take it. Something else that he went through was there's an open records request, and he was part of the city government. I think it was for Port Washington at the time, and those record requests went out. And when there was one that didn't go out, and that person didn't give him much. I don't know all the details behind it, but from his perspective, what he's telling me is that person then sued the city for not releasing that records request. I don't know what exactly happened with the lawsuit and all that. I just understand that they got them the records
foolish enough to sue a private citizen for defamation of character, you can call the court reporter that's listed on CCAP in Ozaukee County case 25521. Just go down, look for the hearing date, and then call the court reporter. They'll tell you how to get the transcript. You might have to pay a couple bucks to do that. Don't take anybody's word for it other than what the judge said that day. And then the other thing that Mayor Zachary was referring to is the Fort Washington case. So the Fort Washington case, actually no, I'm sorry, the Racine County is the 2022 case. Ozaukee County 25C521 is the open records case. Now, the attorneys in that case waited until November to file an open records request, despite the open records request having kind of held in the wind the way some of your open records requests have. And in that case, on February 26, 2026, we will find again in the court record notes of attorney's fees being assessed against the city of Fort Washington attorneys that include Chris Smith. Because what I am told, and I'm ordering a transcript on that, so this is my tentative impression having spoken to some of the people involved in this. Chris Smith, or an attorney working with him, the other attorney from one reason or local or the other one, but most likely Chris Smith, told the mayor in that town not to show up for a deposition that was properly scheduled and noticed. He just said, don't show up for it. So he gave, in that case, the mayor some pretty bad advice. And that came back into court, and the city had to pay the attorney's fees for the people who were trying to have the mayor sit for a deposition. Now, Chris Smith had filed after he told the mayor not to go to the deposition, after the deposition itself, for what's called a protective order. But that was not. So if you look at the court record of that case, you'll see a lot of requesting a protective order and it being denied, or motions to compel and granted or denied. So the idea that Chris Smith made this stuff come out very easily, that there was just a hiccup, maybe they didn't have all the records, is a complete misrepresentation of what happened and what is happening. So if you speak with attorneys who have dealt with Chris Smith, they have phone numbers, and you can call them. All you have to do is go on wisbar.org. That's WISBAR.org. And then go to lawyer search. And you put Chris Smith in. It's a common name, but you'll look for Chris R. Smith and on Reason Road. That will give you his bar ID. Then you go back to CCAP, you all know CCAP, and under advanced search, you just put his bar ID in. You will see the litigation in which he is involved, and you will be able to see the names of the lawyers that are up against him. And if you want to know what he's really like, give him a call. They talk to me, they'll probably talk to you.
So my take on this would be, so you're asking other people who don't like him if they're going to.
I'm telling people how to get the facts.
What is your agenda?
Well, I don't have an agenda personally myself, but I do have an agenda here. This is the agenda from Chris Smith's CLE session that he gave in May of 2026, entitled Pros and Cons of Recruiting a Data Center to Your Community. So if you're a lawyer and you have the CLEs to take, the Land Use Seminar from 2026, he was the second speaker. He says things in his agenda like,
This is all public record, so it's not hidden.
no, it is him, only lawyers know. So, under his section,
So where can you find that though? Like where can you get that information?
Oh, you'll be able to find it online.
Okay, but outside of someone else releasing it, how would someone else have gotten that information?
You gotta join the state bar association or another type of professional.
So you're a lawyer
On
then?
this bar, and then register for the seminar.
So you're an attorney of some sort then?
Yes.
And what, I mean, we can share that online
You
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's not public, I mean, it's for a payroll. Well, well, speaking of sneaky stuff, on page 3 of his agenda, we have section 5, proactive community engagement sound like what happened? Doesn't that sound like what they tried to do? Like, doesn't it sound like if it weren't for Charlie Barrett showing up, this would have just run through? And frame the community benefit merit early. I'm saying, frame the community benefit merit.
Interrupting you.
So, frame the community benefit narrative early. Who here has been at one of these meetings? Raise your hand. Who here has heard the phrase community benefits? Kind of a lot of times, right? Like more times than you hear the word mozzarella at an Italian restaurant, you've heard the word community benefit. And why is that? Because point 2 is host informational town halls with technical experts present to answer water, energy, and waste questions. So it's not just that I have an agenda, it's that I have his agenda, and we are on it right now. This is his playbook that he used in the other towns to lull them into a false sense of security. So you people are thinking that what you say is going to have anything to do with the result. It's just to get you chatting. It's just to get you to write some dreams, like in Fort Washington, when they said, can we paint the school colors on the water tower? That would be great. And that's what they got. That's what they got for economic and environmental devastation. They got a water tower. And now when it comes to his last point, because I don't want to talk too long, this is his birthday party. The last point is structure incentives to maximize public benefit. Sounds good. Sounds good, right? What are these last two? While withstanding open records and taxpayer scrutiny. That's you. That's him saying, I have a plan that I give to communities so they don't have to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you a commercial lawyer? Like, do you deal with commercial real estate? No, but you're a lawyer. So that would be like a doctor, a pediatrician delivering a baby, or not even a pediatrician, a podiatrist delivering a baby.
well, I mean, he's a lawyer that understands law,
Right, yeah.
and that other guy is also a lawyer. So I mean, I don't think
I get that,
there's
but
different
there's different
fields.
sectors. There's different sectors where people specialize in, and I'm not taking Christmas side, nor am I taking your side, but I feel like you're coming in hot over this.
Well, there's
and-
not a data center lawyer. There's not a field for data center
But
lawyers.
there is commercial real estate development lawyers.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but not
Which-
specifically just
which
data
he is
centers.
not.
You're not going to find many that will show up to counter what he's saying because their job is to get things built. It's other people's jobs to get things not built when they aren't checking the proper boxes, when they aren't doing the right things. And the reason that I'm coming in a little hot is because you should be coming in hotter. This is your community too. When they talk about 150 megawatts of electricity, and they say they're going to use natural gas turbines, but the natural gas turbines are going to take years and years to build. But this facility is only going to take 2 or 3 years to build. That means those diesel backup generators are going to run. They're going to run in your town. And maybe no one here's told you the math on that, but 1/10 of a gallon of diesel will give you 1 kilowatt hour. There are 1,000 kilowatts to a megawatt. That means 1 hour of a 150 megawatt facility is 150,000 kilowatts. And 150,000 kilowatts takes 15,000 gallons of diesel. Times 24, that's between 240,000 and 360,000 gallons of diesel. Your average gas station has about 10,000 gallons of diesel. So that's drinking dry all the quick trips in central Wisconsin every day.
This is a hypothetical.
Every day. No, that's the power load of the plant they want to build.
Right.
And the reason that they're using multiple 3 megawatt generators is because you can buy a 3 megawatt diesel generator for between $800,000 and $1.2 million. Not that pricey, but also it's not a single entity, a 6-stager, so it's not a, air quotes, power plant. So they're skirting regulations, and that's going to be in the air. And if there's a weather event, maybe that's going to take a day, And every single day that that thing runs on diesel, remember that some things release more carbon dioxide than other things, and I don't want to sound like a tree hugger, but that's about 7.9 million pounds of carbon dioxide every day that runs in that way. And 7.9 million pounds of carbon dioxide is the equivalent of about 16,000 freight trucks driving 250 miles each out and about the town for a day. Okay? That's more than there are people in this town.
Well, you
And
just
that's
created
the
a whole
environmental outlook that happens.
Well, okay.
That thing goes.
Let's
one
say it's not a hypothetical. Let's say the testing,
Yeah.
but the testing, right? Because they're going to test.
Right.
So let's break it down to how long are they going to test for, and how many gallons of diesel is that going to use, and how much pollution will that create from that? Because I don't think that's a hypothetical. I think that's something that is said in the CUP that is going to happen. So I think that's logistical that we can talk about
Right.
without it. Yeah.
I agree with the realities of everything, yeah. Which is they're gonna test for it and they're gonna use it when they need to use it, when Alliance not able to. But again, that doesn't happen, like, when things
But it
happen,
can
it's usually
happen.
not
Well,
Alliance.
well,
We
just
had
that-
storms where we're out for a whole week
But
of
that's
electricity.
always,
But
it's
it-
always specific stuff, it's not Alliance that goes down, it's the distribution system that goes down.
Right.
But what
They have to
about-
take care of the distribution system.
But what about the testing?
Still the same.
Because the testing is still going to happen. They have how many per month did it say in the CUP? Like, yeah, 1 to 2 times per month. So let's say it was an hour. So I want to know how much. Let's say they test it for an hour. Like, how much would that be?
It's 15,000 gallons.
So first, I just wanna say, I apologize for speaking while you were speaking, that was my fault, I apologize for that. Again, we're here, I appreciate Michael's passion for the community, and these are all things that are on the table. They have to be talked about, I'm not gonna deny them, that's not my job to deny them. It's not something that I've heard about, this is all new information, that just kinda came from Michael at this point, so.
So in the CUP, it says not that it can be, it says that it will be tested 1 to 2 times per month. So that is written in there. So I think that's a real I think that's a concern that we can,
Yeah, I guess we always understood
So-
that they were gonna test the generator.
and that's 18 to 24 of them.
So you're saying you're okay with that? Because you knew it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is what they have to do in order to make sure that the system continues on if the electricity is interrupted.
I'd like to address that point. 18 to 24, 3 megawatts does not equal 150. These types of facilities cannot go down. If you watch Chris Smith's delightful presentation at the CLE, he goes on at length about the redundancies that are necessarily built into these data centers to avoid going down, because it costs them a lot of money, because it could cost precious services that are very important to us. So that's why they have such thick concrete walls. That's why they have massive lithium-ion battery backups. That's why these diesel generators have to run like this, because we can't afford to go down. And if you think you can run 150 megawatts with only 48 or 60 megawatts, you can't. Which means you have to look and have these people been completely honest with you the entire time. You know the answer to that question is no. And then you look at Colossus 2 in Tennessee, where Elon Musk built a whole bunch of natural gas turbines that he wasn't allowed to. He got the permits, he waited till nobody was looking, and he just slipped them in there. So what's the difference
That's
between...
just your opinion, though, right?
No, that's not an opinion, that's something that he got in trouble for. I mean, I don't know where, you're not entitled to call whatever facts you don't like an opinion. At some point, you have to join the real world and admit that these things are not safe.
Yeah, I'm not
They
saying
pollute,
that.
and you can't trust the people who try to sneak them into a community before the community can organize.
But
That
this
alone,
wasn't being sneaked in though.
Right.
his plan says, get it all ready before so the community cannot organize against it. That's a plan, that's sneaking.
So, okay,
So
so just
anyway,
to
what I'm
Here,
saying
it
is-
wasn't.
Can I
So
go for a
if
second
you
also?
don't think that they're going to put in more generators, because they can't allow it to go down. So they can't keep it up with that number of generators. They just can't. So they have to get more. Now, if the power is disrupted, the power is disrupted, so it has to come from on site. So there have to be enough to run the whole thing, because the battery can't run it for a continued period of time. The batteries are only there, as Kevin knows, who's pretty good at this stuff, that though they supply a bridge to keep it from power interruption. So these lithium-ion batteries that burn between 4 and 1400 degrees have to be there, so that if the power goes out, the thing doesn't go down. But they can't sustain it, so they're going to need more diesel generators than they told you. And you know that, because you know you can't trust them because of the way that they acted so far.
Can I do this?
And some, yeah.
Yeah, so let's do some of the math. Okay, what was your total gallons per hour that you were saying they're running all 50 generators?
15,000.
15,000 times 24 is
1 gallon per 10 megawatt, per 10 kilowatt.
15,000 times 24 is what?
360,000.
Okay, I'm going to continuously deliver 360,000 gallons of diesel to this town every day.
See, you got another problem on your hand. How
Wait,
big are these
wait,
tanks?
wait.
How big are these tanks going to be?
Wait, that's my point. It's not possible. It's not possible. So my point is that I'm making you in your offices, there's absolutely no way these guys are gonna build this facility and try and run it on diesel generators, because they can't. It's physically impossible. If they're running the diesel generators continuously, okay, they're gonna have downtime on the generators, which means they're not gonna have full power, which means the facility can't run it full. I've never, in 40 years, I've never seen a data center run on diesel continuously. The only time that I see them run is if power's out, and that can last a day, okay, and they'll have enough tanks built like a gas station to run them. And the other thing they run them for is exactly what you mentioned that's in the cup. They will test them. They will test them every month to make sure that if they need them, they will be there. It is physically impossible for them to run a data center continuously on diesel generators.
Hold on. You said that you've seen it at other data centers, and you haven't seen that in the past 40 years. But we haven't had.
I've been out in 40 years. I've been in IT for 40 years.
Okay, but we haven't had these type of data centers since
Oh,
the
yeah.
past
We have-
what,
no,
10
this size.
years?
Yeah.
10 years
Actually,
tops. The
yeah,
massive
in the last 10
hyperscale
years,
ones.
In the last 10 years,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, and I still have, I'll call it colleagues in the industry whom I'm also talking to, because I have some of the concerns that you have. Nobody said they can find any facility that they're aware of that has run on diesel, that was planned to run on diesel for any amount of time, because it's not feasible. It's not feasible. So I respect your numbers, but in the end, they can't do that. It's not possible. But he is right when he talks about the idea that the power shortage, the numbers don't make sense. It's something that I've spoken with Matt about and some of the aldermen about, because I want to know where that power comes from. And, we don't have an answer to that question. It's just one of many questions that we
Well,
have.
if they're gonna do it, so let me go back to, since, again, I was never told by Chris to have these meetings with you, and of course now that's gonna sound a little bit weird, but my intent was always to make sure that you guys had the ability to communicate with me and talk, so that I could bring it to the government and we could talk this stuff through. My intention was to delay it. We've been delaying this, so to say that we're trying to ram it down your throat and do it as fast as possible, it's not true. It's not happening.
So in terms of delaying it, does that mean that you support the moratorium that would be put up by?
The moratorium is actually an official term, like that.
Yeah.
It has to stand for certain things, and my understanding is, a moratorium in this sense can be done for two things. One, for rezoning property, so if you're taking agriculture out of the countryside and you're going to rezone it as industrial to build an industrial site, then you can start a moratorium or implement a moratorium to talk about why and how we're gonna do that. Or if you're combining parcels or separating parcels, you can also create a moratorium in order to do that. for our situation,
They-
this was zone industrial.
Yeah.
Never changed, you know, the thing they did was slow it down and slow them down, creating the conditional use permit process so that we could have more control over what they did and how they did it. At that time, nobody came, nobody argued with us, we talked about it for 3 months. We had the options to zone them out altogether. Nobody wanted to do that. We thought that it was our responsibility to let industries to come into to wherever they want to, and as long as we monitor them and do it right, and again, that's our burden to take on. As the government, we have to monitor them and enforce the rules that are in the CPU and the community benefits agreement. Now, I did not learn that from Chris. I learned that from Erin, I think, from the Farmers Union. She talked all about community benefits agreements at the Tri-Lake Gardens show thing that we went to. So that's where that came from, and I believe in that 100%. Chris hasn't taught me any of that stuff. This is stuff that I'm learning. Like, I'm trying to be a good steward for you guys so that you guys have a voice and we can create this. We don't even know if it's going to pass yet. We still have to actually get it to the planning commission, which I can tell you now that, so this company did now hand in a development agreement or development plan for the facility. We don't have all the information we need on that yet, so we've kind of said, well, we don't have what we need, so we can't put it on the planning commission. They did not fill out the new paperwork to be put on the planning commission for August, so that hasn't been done either. So again, we're not reaching out to them and trying to help them do things faster. We're actually saying they don't have it in, so we can't actually put it on the planning commission yet. So the time limit is up on that because we have to post it 3 weeks in advance, and that time frame has already lapsed, so it won't be on there. It could be on September, it could be a special thing, because if we are gonna bring this to the planning commission and to the community, I think we've already decided that, one, we wouldn't want it like during a normal planning commission, because there'd be all these other items that we'd have to get through. We would have a special planning commission and hold it at Lincoln or Rams, so that we would have room for everybody and time to just focus on that one question, because we know how important it is and how big it is. And to be honest with you, none of us are really totally sold on this, because we do have questions about this company. I don't want to go too far into it, because I'm not trying to insult the company that's trying to do business. That's not my job. But I'm letting you know that none of us are sold 100%, because I think they know how to build buildings, and if they don't necessarily know how to build the entire data center well to the state of the art, up to date with the best, latest and greatest technologies for sound and everything else, then we don't want it. Like, we want the latest and greatest, and why shouldn't we be able to get it at this point? So again, you have a lot of people in the government that are on our side. Yeah, our job is to be a little bit more like we were hired / elected to run a corporation, to run the city corporation, the municipality, and that's what we're doing every day. We're running this business and trying to make it work for everybody. Right now, again, it's fine, but if we were micromanaged all the time by all the residents, one, I wouldn't do it, and two, like, it just wouldn't go anywhere. We'd bog down, we'd get nothing accomplished, we'd have no industry or economy building or any of that stuff going on, as well as the police and the fire and the streets and all the other stuff that we do on a daily basis. This is just one aspect of the 15 departments in the city that we're running every day to make this happen. And it's kind of a small one, in the end. It's like 50,000, I don't want to say exactly what it is. Anyway, it's not as big as police, fire, and streets, but it's something that we've been asked to do. So we're working on it to the best of our ability. Again, door's always been wide open for everybody to be able to come and talk to us and help us grow, because we're just residents in the community. We all have other jobs, we all have other things going on, we have families here. So if the goal is to actually help the community instead of berating us and berating every move we make and second guessing everything we're doing and the people that are trying to help us do it, I mean, that's fine too, unless again the agenda is to just kind of get on camera and make something out of it. I would say help us. Just be a part of the conversation and help us instead of the gotcha stuff, because
I think that's what Mike is doing, trying to bring attention to maybe some questions we have about this Chris. Is he the right person? He brings.
You're not questioning this Chris guy. Speaking of,
I have questions, just so you know, everything you bring to me, I can
speaking of the open doors and the developers, last week, Wednesday, we had one of these meetings at the mill. You told a room full of people that there had been pretty much radio silence with these developers since that May 4th meeting was canceled.
No.
Less than 12 hours later, the Wisconsin Rapids Daily Tribune ran a story where PNK Group said that they've been talking to you guys the whole time. And that narrative was repeated again, I think, in a Monday front page article, that PNK said that they've been talking to city employees and other personnel the whole time. So, do you not know what's going on?
No,
or
I'm
is
just saying-
someone not telling the
We're
truth?
just saying it wasn't true. They're not telling the truth on that.
So the developers are lying.
So what's happening? Well, again, like I said, there's issues here. I've never said that I support this company 100%, and that's fine. That's why when I went to them, Kyle and I went to them and said, we want to, after the charter of variance, we want to slow this down. They agreed to that because they did not have their ducks in a row. So, and again, they went silent. We brought on Chris Smith to act as the go-between. So when they need something, they talk to Chris, Chris talks to us, so they talk to their lawyer, he talks to Chris, they talk to us. And to clarify, Chris works for us, he represents us, he sends us a bill, we create a new invoice and send them the bill, and then they pay us, and then we pay Chris. So it's not that company is just let us
Just a quick question. Does anyone here think that sounds a little weird? Raise your hand if you think an invoice for an invoice means the data center is really paying.
Okay, so that's standard operating procedures. Whenever we have a development going in, if we have to hire outside counsel, it's written in our ordinance, as it is every other municipal ordinance, that if we have to hire somebody to help us navigate things that we are not savvy in, because our lawyer isn't going to be a lawyer in every aspect of everything, or our engineers. So then it's in the ordinance that we can then hire somebody and the company will agree to pay for them. So it happened with Metallica, it happened with other things. So again, if you're saying we're doing something nefarious, every other municipality is doing it too. So I can't help that. I gotta follow the rules that are there. You know.
So
but in
could it
that-
be that Pink Group was talking with Chris Smith versus like the mayor of the town, and like that's where that whole Tribune article came from then?
I mean, could he be getting some bad advice from the bad actor?
No, I think things are okay. So to clarify, so if they're talking because we needed to talk with them and let them know, one, we were hiring Chris and they agreed in writing to pay for Chris. Like they would reimburse us for Chris. And then two, we asked them to agree to a community benefits agreement, or it's really a developer's agreement, but again, I hope it's Aaron. Aaron was the one who brought up community benefits agreement, and I'm the one who told Chris, I want to go with the words community benefit agreement because I want the people who are talking to us to feel that they're a part of this if it continues to move forward after the planning commission actually gets to the table. So there was some stuff that was being said, but they weren't talking with us, and it wasn't direct communication because they were busy hiring engineers to come up with development plans that they submitted last week, Friday, at the end of the day. So, yes, I mean, things were happening, and I said at that meeting that we just caught wind that they were looking to move forward with the development, with handing in their development plans. So I did in that meeting, and it's on camera, that things had happened, but nothing, they haven't brought anything 100% to the table yet, because they haven't. But what I said on the camera was, my understanding is they're going to be submitting a development plan soon. So you can look at the camera on that. So again, if you got me, I'm assuming that's what you're trying to do, is to get me and make me look bad. I think the point, though, is
that's
just
never our intention. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's
I appreciate that.
it's more just to get
Yeah.
information out there.
Again, imagine, I don't go into that, but anyways, for right now, is there, I hate to open up this door, like I feel like I go to bed every night feeling really good about what I'm doing for you guys and for us and for our community, and that's important for me. So when I get somebody that starts to question my integrity and slander me in little ways, it gets a little bit draining, like we all have to live our life still, but I do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I appreciate this community. I'm glad to be a part of it. We're trying to find our best way forward, and that is making sure that this if it's gonna happen, again, it comes down to the vote of the planning commission and the 8 councilmen, and if they were to tie, then I would have to vote. But outside of that, I don't have any power in the say of what happens here until that happens. But my job is to still manage the process and make sure that it happens so our government continues to run. And if our government is all evil and we're all full of stupid people, like, that's pretty unfortunate because we're the ones who elected everybody and we're the ones who fired everybody. I find everybody to be pretty smart and pretty goodwill and doing the best that they can. Certainly nobody wants to be in this position, being called names and being accused of things that they're not doing. To assume attorneys want that too. Are all attorneys gonna get along? No, their job is to fight with each other, so they're gonna fight with each other and have negative things to say about each other because he said this about me and this and that in the court system. So I get that, I understand lawyers, they're just people too. I would like to ask some questions now.
Sure.
Thanks.
Can I get one more in?
No, let me get some questions.
Act
So-
67, did
Seriously.
Elizabeth explain to you,
Okay.
under Act 67, it guts their ability to block someone who doesn't follow or isn't really gonna follow a conditional use permit? That prior to Act 67, that had some teeth, but now, all they have to do to get a conditional use permit is to say they're gonna satisfy the conditions? Did he explain that to you?
Conditional use permit, so that was the city, I had nothing to do with Chris because he wasn't around yet. So that was something that the city and the alderman and the planning commission worked on for 3 months to build. We're working on building the conditional use permit as this is going on. And we're starting to understand better what the actual development plan was. Because until last Friday, we didn't really have a full Thanksgiving, we weren't sure if one was actually going to come or not. So we didn't know necessarily how to the benefits of it. If you're asking us how we're going to.
Speak up just a little bit, the fan picture back there.
I can change the temperature if you want, and it'll.
So, so we hadn't developed the conditional use permit yet because there was no plan on the table, so we didn't necessarily know how to structure it. So I think what you're asking is, how are we going to enforce the conditional use permit? Is that what you're asking us?
No.
What is Act 67?
It's a law from about 10 years ago that came around the same time as the comprehensive zoning plan updates that hampers municipalities and counties' ability to enforce certain standards on conditional use permits and to deny them. So before that, someone could submit and say, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to build this, and we're going to do this, and you could look at the plan and say, I don't believe you, deny. But since Act 67, they say, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and you kind of just got to eat.
Is that a state thing or a city? A
It's
city.
state.
Okay, so I do have a question with that whole situation. If, let's say the data center, all the people are like, no, we don't want to do this. Like all the important people say we don't want to do this. Is the city at risk then for being sued because of the current, like how things are currently written?
Yes.
So,
But not if they use the police power and home rule to craft ordinances signed off on by an engineer or public health official setting forth certain standards. So zoning is by zone and looks generally to things and forward in time. So this is where
that's
you
the
have.
meeting for yesterday.
Right, yeah, this is where we're gonna put residential, this is gonna be commercial, this is gonna be this. Ordinances apply throughout a community. So if you think about it, there could be sand mining there, industrial, right? And you could have zones for sand mining, but you could also have an ordinance that says no sand mining in this town between the hours of this and this, or above this loudness, or this, that, and the other thing. And that will stand even if the developer says, well, we submitted a conditional use permit that no one believes, but you gotta give us a chance.
Right, so and that's kind of what the city is doing.
No, They also need the police power and home rule ordinance, or they're gonna get snuck and stuck like many other communities that think a conditional use permit is the only way that they can protect their people.
So you're saying we need to actually do ordinances
Yes,
to cover it?
yes,
And that would fall on our alderman
yes.
taking it to the council.
Yes, it would. And also, Kevin will explain this to you. There needs to be an update to the fire code, because if this happens, your fire department cannot fight 1,000 square foot electrical, chemical fire. People will get sick, fire people will be in danger. Kevin pointed this out to me, there are not other fire departments that are equipped for that. So what does it look like in our fire code to store that much diesel, that much lithium ion? What kind of, and I don't want to steal your thunder because he's very, very good at this part. What are the chemicals that will go into the fire suppression systems above the stacks of computers or servers? What is it? Is it cancer causing? Is it gonna blow out if the roof goes? Is it gonna make the firemen sick? Does it have 100% ability to shut this fire down? Or are we gonna be 3 years from now sending guys with water trucks to put out an electrical fire? And that also needs to happen.
Wouldn't that be all part of like the infrastructure upgrade, like upgrading? When we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about, you know, the electrical transmission and all of that, and
Yes,
it would
but it
be
needs
the
to be
roads,
defined.
it would be our manpower
Yeah.
to,
Yes, but it needs to be in the fire code, because the fire code is one of the few things in municipal place has real teeth. Now, right now, our fire code has a 3 warning, 3 strikes, you're out, but it also can shut businesses down. It also has jail for violations. So municipalities can't do a lot of jailing, but fire code violations are jailable, and that is something that you guys need to look at, because if this thing goes up because somebody, you know, isn't watching what they're doing, or there's a surge, or some system fails, there needs to be consequences for the person that did their, you know, job poorly that destroys half the town. You can sit a couple days in jail.
I'll try and clarify this, because he's right, we did talk about this.
Yeah.
There are a few things to know. The first is, we do need to know what the coolant chemical is. It's a closed loop system, it doesn't touch the water, it doesn't go into the water. But, you know, like all cooling systems, leaks can develop. What are the detection methods, and what are the recapture methods? The same thing is with fire suppression system. The point that I made with him in his office a few days ago is you can't just let an electrical fire burn out. You can protect the buildings around it, that's easy enough. The only thing that would be in there that I would consider to be potentially explosive is battery systems that they'll use. That's a temporary system as they switch from one power system to the other. And the diesel fuel. You know, we have gas stations with diesel fuel. Okay, we know how to protect ourselves against that. I'm not worried about that. He's right about lithium ion battery packs. They burn hot. We've seen how small ones can cause problems on aircraft and all that kind of stuff. So there
How are the
does
solar
need
farms
to be
handling that?
something to address that particular need. But like all these other things that we're talking about, these are all things that I, you know, from my experience, that I've brought to certain council members who've asked the mayor and said, these are all things that need to be addressed as part of the conditions for them to do business in this town. So do I think that there's a situation where there'd be some massive explosion, as you just said, that it destroys half the town? No, can't do that. It's not possible. Okay, can there be an explosion? Sure, battery pack explosion. Okay, and you do need to have the proper equipment, fire suppression equipment, to deal with that kind of problem. That's why in their design, they have to describe how they're gonna do that, and they also have to describe what happens if it gets out of control. Are they gonna, they're gonna introduce things that are different than what we have in our town. These are required to protect the town. And like Mike says, if you're in violation, our fire chief would then go and inspect. They're in violation, here's your penalty. If you don't fix it in this amount of time, you are shut down.
We also want them to foot the bill though, for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask if there's, we're talking about infrastructure and, no matter how much that company or you plan for disasters or fire, is there they can't plan for geography. Now that thing is going to be built a half a mile away from people in your district, Smith Street, First Street North, Strawberry Lane, Buren. We're going to be directly downwind from that facility. And we're going to have to contend not with just the decibel levels, 85 and 90 decibels across the water, which carries much more than it does across, other areas. We're going to be directly impacted by any sort of downwind chemicals, smoke, ash. So are they planning for, you can't change geography. And this site seems to be in an area, granted, you really want to have something there, but it's in an area that if something happens, is going to directly affect that entire east side of Wisconsin Rapids. It's going to be First Street, it's going to be up towards St. Peter and Paul, it's going to be up all of that area, and I'll tell you what, those people on Smith Street are going to be, they're less than what, half a mile, quarter mile away from that place. So you can really plan infrastructure, and you can plan fire suppression, and you can plan for rapid responses for things, but you can't plan for the location and the geography. And what are we going to do with all of us when something happens? You can put the fire out, but we're going to be in some deep crack.
How does ERCO handle that? Is that what it's still called, ERCO? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I know they do training, or they just did a big training, I think last year, they shut down that whole road.
And I know the mills were there training too, and the fire department was trained on it. And I didn't know, like, if I knew that this conversation was gonna go into the utilities and the services, then I could have brought in all the people that are gonna be able to talk as professionals about how they're gonna manage this stuff.
I mean, there's
Which would be the
areas
next
that are safe,
conversation that we have. I'd rather professionals.
but not that site.
Is there something that, like, maybe the city could do with, is maybe like an online form, kind of like the community, the comprehensive community plan, but do like a data center, like what are all the questions and everything that people have, and then you get those answers from your various professionals, and then create a little presentation of some sort, or something like resources for people to go to. Like, is that something that you planned on doing or thinking about doing?
We
Or
built the website to have the questions and answers and
for the data center?
stuff
Wait,
for the data center.
what website? The P&K
It's the
website?
WIRapids.gov. We have
Oh,
a
okay.
spreadsheet for,
Some people don't use
website.
internet though. The older people, like the retired people, a lot of them don't use internet.
I mean, in terms of getting that information to them, it's a struggle right now. I mean, we lost newspaper and TV, like, it's communicating is a struggle. That's why I try to get out in the community as much as I can so I can share what I know face to face.
Hold on, back to her question, because you said on that website, is there a form?
There's a question and answer. You can ask any questions specifically to what you're asking. We could talk with Emily and Kent and get it set up.
Just an idea that,
Yeah,
No, I mean where people can submit questions?
right.
Is that,
The website is there to do that generally, but you can also set it up on the website, on the webpage for the data center. So we can communicate more about
well, then that would give you then a general idea of where people, I mean, it's probably gonna be a lot of things for you to filter through, but it'll give you an idea of where people's questions are going, and, you
well,
know, maybe.
not just that, but for the CBA as well. I mean, there should be a community input. Like that's probably one of the biggest things
It's true.
that come
I
out
mean,
of
again,
this.
that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Is getting the information from you guys that we would want in there. But again,
I think it's,
I think it's a good thing to have a community benefits agreement or developers agreement then
Yeah.
if it moves forward, again, it's all still up in the air.
Right,
It's
right.
after that
Well,
point,
I mean, I think we can say it's a little bit past hypothetical considering that they created a website and paid advertisements. I mean, I think we're at that next step. I think we're out of the hypothetical phase.
But I always say this, until the paperwork's submitted, we
Yeah.
don't have anything.
That's
so
a
we
lot.
can't implement
Yeah, I mean,
it.
that's money that they're putting into it
It is
though.
true.
So that'd be weird to do for.
Foxconn, they poured all that stuff, you know, and it
Yeah.
never happened, so.
Can I ask something that's back up
Yes,
here? Why do we need this? What is the city going to get out of this? What are the people going to get out of this?
Again, if we can solve all the problems that Michael's talking about and all the issues that data centers have had, and they are building better and better data centers all the time.
And we
So
talked about
let's-
that, is
yeah.
that within 2 to 5 years, they're all going to be obsolete. These data centers,
I
in
don't
2
know
to
about
5
that.
years,
I mean,
they're gonna,
yeah.
because within the next year, they're gonna be putting all new things in that aren't going to be, sound isn't gonna be there.
Right.
The light
They're
isn't
doing
gonna
it
be
now. They
there.
have soundless facilities now where they're submerged. in
Right,
water.
why are we
That's what we
jumping
do.
the gun here? Why don't we wait that time?
Okay.
And get the new stuff.
Yeah, it's not, again, people are gonna differ with us, but I guess the way we're moving on this right now is that our job is to get it to the planning commission for them to vote. And we haven't
Well,
got it.
you're pretty much saying that you wanna get it up there, that you're gonna do
Well,
that.
we have
What are
to.
they,
We have to do it.
what are we going to get out of this?
Well, okay, if it did come to our communities, somewhere between 20 and they're saying 200 jobs, so every job.
Are they looking for
Are they remote?
I mean, you're gonna get all the trucks and all this stuff in the next 3 years to build this thing.
And that's,
And
what
what
are
do
you
you
gonna say? So like say it's 20 jobs,
That's the truth.
it's 20 jobs, I mean, it's still jobs.
nothing.
like we do.
Are they local
Well,
jobs?
then,
back up.
Are they local jobs?
So-
I have a question.
Okay, so if,
It's not like manufacturing or a factory that
Exactly.
brings in
Why
employees
can't
people.
Right.
But
But
having a data
It's
center
20
here,
managers of a huge facility. That's nothing.
I have a
Doesn't-
question.
they
Why
don't-
do you or the council think that the data center coming to Rapids would be so much better than what all the other states and communities are dealing with? Why are we special? Because I don't foresee that happening.
Because we have
The council won't necessarily think that.
right.
Well, I know, I'm just,
One, we
because,
have-
I mean, it's all over, and
we have-
I know you have to know, you can't say you haven't
I
seen
understand
that.
what's going on. I also-
Right,
yeah,
and it's
so-
even at the federal level, where they're talking about a federal moratorium on, there's a reason for
That would
that.
be interesting, because they're the ones that are funding so much of this stuff. They're the ones that are pushing.
I haven't
So
seen
if
a
we
federal
create
moratorium.
they
It's
don't,
more-
right?
it's more a
Because then we wouldn't have
possibility-
to fight each other.
It's more a
That
possibility
would be
for a
awesome.
statewide
It's-
moratorium than
But it's,
anything.
what I'm
as of
saying
right
is,
now.
it's being brought up,
That's
it's
when it gets
being
political.
talked about.
I mean, these
Yeah,
have
so
been
why-
being built for a long time, half a century we've been building. It's not as big as this, and now they're getting like ridiculous. I agree. I don't understand all this stuff. I mean, again, from that angle, I understand this. What we're trying to do is say, if we have a conditional use permit, community benefits agreement, and we're able to enforce it, again, I still think we're able to enforce stuff, but Michael's saying that we don't have any power to enforce anything. I disagree with that, and I know it's gonna be up to us to do that.
Sounds
So
like
it's
the
a-
ordinances need to be changed
Yeah,
in order
well,
to
that's why we
enforce.
did the ordinance changed, you know, and we worked on that to get
Is
to
it-
the point we are now.
Is there a possibility of like updating some
We are gonna get
ordinances?
together soon and talk about the ordinances again.
Okay.
The issue is if they put their paperwork in, they may be grandfathered in because you can't change an ordinance after.
Ordinances, you can, zoning, you can't.
So we can get that fire ordinance in before then the cup and everything is signed?
What's that?
We need to change the fire ordinance?
Yeah,
Before
we
the
can
cup
work
and
on
everything
doing
is
that, and we're bringing that to the table.
No, the
in,
fire code, you
August,
change the fire code.
I still haven't asked the question, what else is this gonna
That's
do
because
for us?
everybody keeps.
I know, but
Sorry.
20 jobs doesn't make for
Okay,
putting that
I
all
will say
across.
this though, if another company came in and said they wanted to set up a shop here or start a business, and they said, I'm gonna have 20 employees, I would be elated, and I'd rather have 500 companies here with 20 employees than have another one company with 2,000 employees that goes away and then all of a sudden we're out 2,000 jobs. I'd much rather have diversity.
You know
This is
that's
just
not
one,
gonna happen.
this is
And
just
I have
one
another
scope
question
to
that
the
is
wheel.
kind of, that land, is there something about that land that we can't build other things on?
It's
Could you build apartment houses, could you do all that? No.
So the land itself has a lot of bedrock in it. We don't know what chemicals. We don't need to know because it's private to private. If a government owns it, then we have to test the soil and go through all that. But because it's private to private, they can build on it. There's massive footings in there from the big mill that we just took down. That was a power plant that was burning all sorts of crazy stuff and creating all sorts of
But you don't know what's under there,
issues.
you don't know what
So we
chemicals
don't
are down
know,
there.
so we have to build up. If
Well,
we're gonna-
how
if
can
we're
you
gonna
do
build,
that
we're
without
gonna
knowing
build
what's down there?
because they can build on top of it. They would. Now back where the logs were, there's some land that's back there, but that's right in front of the landfill. And so you can't really, the landfill is right on the river and it's actually a really big landfill. You can't touch that landfill, so it has to stay there. So then you have a piece of that land and the rest of it could be contaminated. We won't know what is in there. Most people say there's just all sorts of stuff in there, but.
So when they come and build these warehouses that you call them, they don't have to test that before they disturb it? And then
No.
it's in the air
As long as
for
they're willing
all
to
of us that live in,
Wait, what was that? Sorry. They're the ones that have the ability to build on it and take the risks.
so that, okay, but if they disturb the ground, because you're saying that,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty disturbing.
Shouldn't they also have to test it to know what's being put in the air?
Well,
From,
they don't
from,
have to, though, that's the laws. A
They
lot of
don't
what-
have
A lot
to?
of what we're talking about is laws, like stuff. And Michael's kind of telling us that laws are arbitrary, but I guess I always grew up saying that I feel like laws are what we're supposed to follow, so we all kind of, it's not me getting to decide who gets to do what, it's just we're all on the same playing field. So I keep going by what I'm being told is the laws and what we're following, so that's one of the laws.
so a private person
Private to
can build,
private.
I'm just trying to understand this.
Private to
A
private.
private person can build on a property even though it has contaminated soil,
Well, they don't know if it does, because they're
I
not
know.
gonna test it, you know.
right?
So when they when they did the demolition of the site, the craft mill, was there any air testing of what the dust and the construction, the dust and pollution that was created by the demolition?
They had to,
Because again, with geography, we've been breathing it for the last 2 years.
That
And
would be like the
did the
DNR.
city do any kind of preventative checking to see what they were kicking up into the atmosphere? And since I've lived over there since I was 7, and we definitely have smelled the craft mill and dealt with the pollution there.
right.
Ever since I was a child, we know darn well that the westerly winds are going right into our neighborhood.
Right.
What have we been breathing for the last 3 years or more since the craft mill has been torn down? Have we been breathing asbestos? Have we been breathing toxic chemicals? Do you know?
Well, they had to abate all the asbestos first before they could touch anything else, so that had to come out. So
But stuff
it
was
wasn't no
taken
I mean, I
into
can't
the
say there wasn't
you
some
know.
particles in the air, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
And
we
who
had
was
to get
responsible for
talent.
Them
They
or
were
the city?
responsible for it, and what is there, they have to keep some water suppression on it as they're doing it, but yeah.
But really you don't know
That was it.
what the rest of us have been
Demolition, I guess
dealing
the
with for the
demolition
last.
had to happen. I mean, I
Well, it
guess
had to
technically,
happen,
yeah,
but-
it had to happen.
There was no monitoring, is what you're saying.
They're monitoring it. and
They're
it's a
monitoring.
Professional group that has to monitor.
Okay,
it.
so an internal monitor doesn't give me a good, warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
Would that be something like the DNR, like that's reported to the
They
DNR?
won't tell you if there was something bad.
And
And they wouldn't tell you
Benefits are right,
exactly, they won't
CA
tell us
there,
anything.
I don't care.
What's that like?
all the way up to.
What was that, sir?
It just seems.
I agree, I don't think that they would tell us if there
No,
was,
they wouldn't.
because it's private.
Mayor,
And
But
I-
like the
it's just
mills and
really
like Ocean
irresponsible.
Spray have to report to the DNR and like their air qualities and like they have to have
DNR
theirs.
is involved in that.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to get DNR permits, they have to get all that, but we are not the ones.
Yeah, the contractor would have had to follow OSHA standards,
Right.
Wisconsin DNR standards. They can't just go out there willy-nilly and
Right.
do it like
Okay.
cowboys. They
Is
have
there
to
any way
follow,
that we can find out what was?
the demolition company would have those records.
And
They had to have
records
information.
that we could, oh,
Yeah, can we get access to that?
I think if you go to the DNR
Are we
website, you
allowed
can
to
look
have,
at.
you know, access to that?
MRD is the name of the company.
Okay.
Jerry Blumberg is the owner of it, so he's out
and
here.
we could
Yeah,
petition them for
He actually-
information.
Yeah, he actually grew up in the area, so
Okay.
he wants the best for the area. He was a they did a really good job, I think, doing it, because it's gone, you know, and there's other things that still have to happen, so. Hold on a second, Mark.
Has the city actively recruited anybody, sought any other alternatives as a data center?
Oh yeah, we've been for 2.5 years, we've had people coming from all around the world for that land, for the 16 building. We've had some really good prospects, but nobody's taken any bites on it because I think they want too much money. Once they knew CRG who owns it, once they knew they could get more money from a data center, I think that's what kind of enticed them to hold out. Although they would have sold it to some of these big manufacturing, like we almost had a solar panel company builder go into the 16 building and they would have bought that whole property. But when the federal level incentives changed, then they had to pull out. But they had put down pretty large down payments, and it would have been $1 billion investment with 1,000 employees. So we were so close to that. But we haven't had anybody else, and it's been on the market, for a long time. It's just such a crazy building.
How long ago was that solar panel manufacturing?
When did Trump get elected?
24.
Okay. So you're saying before that, though, there might have been some that they just wanted to hold out for and decided to not go with them?
Sure, but I think right now they're, it's what they're asking for the land, which I don't even know exactly what the price is. Manufacturing is, it would be tough for people to come in and pay for that, and it's just a big price tag for a piece of property that is what it is. It's, it's not as valuable as they're making it out to be. So
What were they asking for it here?
I don't know for sure. I heard it was for
6
25
million?
to 35.
Pardon?
25 to 35, so million.
So let's get them in here. No, I'm just kidding.
Mayor?
Yes.
It's typical that old industrial areas are brownfields because of the use of chemicals. And DNR does maintain a database of areas that have been designated as brownfields.
Yeah.
So, do you know of any designation of that area as a brownfield?
I don't have that information.
Certainly we can look at, we can just check with the DNR. I worked in this area as a consultant for a while, so I know how contaminated soils are dealt with. And I believe that in the case of this kind of development, where all they would be doing is essentially paving over the area,
Right,
capping it off, they would not have to, not be required to do anything with contaminated soils if they existed. If they moved the soils off-site, then they would have to. So I think the issue of contaminated soils, of course, it would be important for us to know whether there's contaminated groundwater as well as soil. But I believe in regard to this development, it probably is not relevant because the type of development that would exist. I mean, they could put a mall on it. They could put a parking lot, and it would comply. I have a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if everyone is aware, but just a few days ago, the governor of New York State issued an executive order that posed a moratorium statewide on data centers for, I believe it's a year. And I'm wondering if you've been in contact with any of the state representatives about whether or not there's interest in doing similar moratorium statewide in Wisconsin.
I had an opportunity to talk to Governor Evers by chance. We filled potholes together for a little bit. And I asked him about it, and he wasn't talking about any kind of moratorium at that point. We just talked more about, it's just something that's kind of coming. It is coming, and we want to get ahead of it and build the best facilities possible. And I feel like that's what everybody's trying to do is you have the original versions and you try to keep upgrading and building. But he didn't seem to have any, that when I talked to him, any interest in any kind of moratorium. And I haven't talked to Representative Crew and Senator Teston, and they're not talking about any kind of moratoriums or anything for the state. But again, it would make our life easier. You know, I feel like what they do is they open up this can of worms, and then they throw it at the municipal level, and then we all fight each other and try to figure out what we're gonna do moving forward, and then they use what we do to kind of build on other things, and I think it's the most unhealthy way to do it, because we're all neighbors, and we're all supposed to be working together as a community.
But we can have a moratorium through the Public Works Committee. So that's what Maddie was pushing forward. That's what she referred.
Right.
So
but
that is a moratorium that we can have in our municipality.
again, I could be told differently again on this, but my understanding is moratoriums are for two things. One, if you're changing zoning, or two, if you're combining or splitting parcels in order to create something bigger at an industrial level or something along those lines.
I think that's for the zoning, but Public Works, it's different. So, I mean, I'm pointing back to our lawyer here who's gonna know more about that, but
Maybe you have some.
I think you should ask Sue Shill instead of Chris Smith.
I talked to Chris Schuchel every day also, as well as everybody else in the organization.
would ask her, not him.
Okay. And I have, and she gave me some information.
about the moratorium.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I've also consulted other lawyers outside of the city and Chris Smith will talk about.
Okay. Because I know obviously every municipality's municipal code is different, but I know in other municipalities they've been able to do that. So I'm curious why ours
Well,
would be
they've
a
done it.
unique.
They've done it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually were able to do it or not.
They
It
have.
might have been because they were taking agricultural land and asking to change it into industrial land, and then they can have a moratorium.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which is usually how this happens. I said this before, this 200 acres is special. Outside of this, there's no place in Wisconsin Rapids a data center is gonna go. If anybody else came, they'd have to talk to the outside towns
Have-
and villages about
have you-
some of their, or not villages, but the townships about their land.
Yeah, and that's going to be my next question. Have you talked to the Wood County Board to see if about a possible, because we need to also, think about our other townships and towns here. So we want to make sure that it's not, obviously you said this would be the only place in Wisconsin Rapids, but there's, everywhere else, and I know that's not your deal, but have you spoken with?
We're one big community, I've always seen it that way, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
separation by the borders, like, we're all
Have you
separate corporations.
have you spoken with the board at all, like about that?
The county board?
Yeah.
I talked to some of the people from the county board, I
Okay.
never talked directly to the entire board,
Okay,
at a meeting or anything like that.
okay. Do you know if that's something that they've considered at all, like a moratorium through the
They
county?
can only create a moratorium for the townships. The villages
Mhm.
are municipalities and the cities are municipalities and
Yeah.
have their own autonomy. So the county can't create a moratorium.
Correct.
for
But I'm saying,
municipalities.
have you talked to them about that or heard
For
anything?
the other.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I didn't ask them specifically if they want to do that.
Just curious if it's been put on in the plans at all or not.
I have talked to a couple of them myself, and a couple of them that I talked to were for it, but Lance is not for it. That's what they told me on.
Got it.
For a moratorium or for the data center?
For the moratorium.
Moratorium.
It's okay with the data center. That's what I hear, I didn't hear it directly from him, but I heard from the people that talked to me, so. It would be beneficial maybe to contact Lance.
Yeah, I talked with Lance.
See what he says, get the story right from the horse's mouth.
Sure, that's what I like to do, but that's.
Well, Mayor Zacher, what I'm hearing is that you're welcome, it sounds like you're interested in having another meeting with bringing on some more experts, fire, legal,
Wastewater.
waste and water, and having a larger meeting on this topic, because I think that would be great. The more of this is discussed, more people are gonna understand what's happening and be able to make better choices on it. And I applaud you for being willing to meet with and have those experts for the public to chat with on this topic. So when do you think you might want to try and do that? I mean, it's not easy,
I have the meeting set up every Wednesday for the next 2 months or so, so I can. try
In
to-
saying that, I think it would be nice to have, is it Michael Kern? Is that Kern? Kyle Kern, and Susan Chill
Yeah.
for questions here as well.
I'll have to talk with them and figure out, because that's a big ask. Maybe I don't bring them all at one time, maybe I do some smaller.
I mean, even if it's, some of the group over 3 meetings, I mean, that's better than trying to cram them all.
Everybody in one. Yeah, we work on that. Would you also think that getting some representatives from Quadco, Alliance, and American Transmission Company?
Alliant would be great, because that that goes to the whole power issue.
And Quipco, definitely Quipco too.
And also
Yeah.
the power issue. Midwest Environmental Advocates, we've got a hold of some documents in an open records request from the Vantage Data Center. And there's city employees there talking about ATC, eminent domaining people and not really caring at all whose houses they're taking. And at a previous hearing, we know that this proposed facility is on a 220 acre site, but there'd be 175 additional acres that would need to be eminent domain or taken. Is that still the story? And then I guess the long and short of it is, who's gonna lose their house running these lines to the place? Do we have their addresses yet? Do they know?
I don't know. So this was, where did you find this information?
At Midwest Environmental Advocates dump of the open records request, but then the 175 additional acres was you.
Was me?
Yeah.
175 acres. I don't think we ever talked about this. Can you explain?
We asked how many additional acres would need to be converted to this product or project, or by the power company. And you said 175.
I never talked about
So-
this.
Is that a low number?
No, so there's this plot where the craft mill was and the rail yard, in total is 220 acres-ish, somewhere in there. And that includes the stock warehouse up to the 16 building. And so you know that 16 building is a strong possibility that that's coming down. So it's sad, but so there is some other acreage on the other side of 34 that is also owned by CRG, that was owned by the mill, but it's wetland stuff. So outside of that, this facility, if it were built, oh, I see what you're saying. So this facility, if it's being built, is only using 175 acres of the 220. So there's going to be 45 more acres that are available for manufacturing building that could tap into Quadco's leftover power, hopefully, because my hope is if this were to happen that we would have enough power through Quadco, like they didn't just use up all the power and then there was none, that we would have a surplus of 20 to 50 megawatts that we could bring in more manufacturing, that would be great. But that's extra land, that 45 is extra land, the 175 is what they would build on, ish, again, it's all changing because of the new plan that they did put into place, which will be released as soon as we can, have the information and get it out there. Typically, we release it when we put the media blast out there that says there's a planning commission meeting being held and a public hearing that will be there, so we have to do it 3 weeks in advance. That's when that information gets published also, so people have 3 weeks to be able to read it over and learn about it before they come and get the information from, like that's when the development company would talk about their project and what they'd be looking to do and all the different aspects to it. That's where we would have the utility people there to be able to talk and answer questions, and we'd have the public hearing so everybody from the public could talk about it. Chances are good this may take till 6 in the morning if we're doing this one. All separated and how that's gonna look. We'll have to kind of play that out as it comes. But that's how that would play out.
So it's just to confirm, so 3 weeks notice for the public for the public hearing, right? Any kind of town hall.
Yeah,
And then,
sorry.
okay, and then meetings wise, it's a 24-hour notice for like anything outside of a town hall from the city, correct?
Yeah, when we're doing our public meetings, 24-hour notice.
Okay.
Mayor,
Try to get it out earlier than that, but it doesn't always happen. The 24 is the statute.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may rephrase Mike's concern. If we think about that industrial area and the desire to redevelop it in the interest of the community, create jobs and economic growth, and if we know that there's only a limited amount of power available historically, but if we think about, well, if the demand for power would exceed that if the area were to be developed, however, for whatever purpose, how would that power be brought in?
So what I'm hoping for, again, and this is kind of where I try to stretch my influence if at all possible, is to Quebco, I've built relationships with CRG, and to just be able to have conversations to help make things happen. What I would hope is that if they're going to build new infrastructure, let's say Alliant has enough generation power to bring in, because this company wants to build it. If they do it, they're building it in phases. So they'll start with supposedly the stock warehouse to kind of get going. And they have 50 megawatts of power available now that's left over from the mill shutting down. So they have the distribution for that. So they could start that 50 megawatt facility immediately and then build their buildings and bring in more power as the leases come in. And I think that's kind of their thought process.
More power from Alliant.
So
Right.
it would be power from Alliant.
Yeah.
So in order to bring in, say, that 100 megawatts above, they'd have to build new transmission lines, or at least just the new wires that can handle that capacity.
Okay.
That brings it into the distribution system that Quebco owns, and then spreads it out where they need to go.
So more,
that,
more transmission lines, correct?
well, it could be on the same posts, I guess, just heavier wires. I don't know what that looks like. I'd have to talk to the
Okay.
professionals about that.
Because if it is more, then that would mean other land that could
Well, they
possibly.
probably come down the same land that already comes down.
Okay.
I don't think they would create new land.
I believe that the right of way, as the power increases, the right of way widens.
It's a possibility, so maybe they have to widen that out. I know my son just bought a piece of property that has Alliant transmissions on it, and it's there. It's been there for a long time, and it's staying there, and they have the rights to it. You can drive a UTV on it. But to answer that question, so if they bring in 100 megawatts and they're going to use the 50, my hope is that they would say, if we're going to spend all the money to run this in, run in 150, so that we still have 50 left over, or even more than that. Maybe they can run it in. It's not going to cost much more.
So that's still coming from Alliant, though.
Yeah.
That's not ever going to be Quebco's technically.
I mean,
but it's through.
Alliant is the generator.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Won't it be owned by Alliant, though?
What's that?
Wouldn't it be all owned by Alliant? It's not technically like owned by Quebco. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just
so
trying to clarify.
let me clarify this. So there's distributing, there's transmitting, and then there's power generation. So Alliant and we Energies, they have generating facilities, power plants. ATC is American Transmission Company. They own all the transmission lines in the state and part of the Midwest because they don't want it to be a monopoly. It kind of is a monopoly already. So we have.
Do you mind, is it okay if I
Yeah.
include in the ordinance?
Yeah.
Who pays for that?
So,
Yeah, you can.
let me just finish my train of thought and I can talk about that. So, Alliant is the generator, American Transmission Company transmits it, and then Quebco, or if it were done WLC, they have, whatever company it is, they own the distribution system.
So ATC would own the lines then.
They would own the lines
Okay.
that come from Alliant to Quebco.
Got it.
But, so who's paying for it? The upgrade is, it's gotta be either the company, Quebco, ATC is gonna participate in their upgrades, and Alliant's gonna participate in their upgrades. The only way we would participate in higher prices, in my opinion, is when Alliant builds a new generating facility, which they're going to eventually because we're living on old technology and old infrastructure.
And the more data centers we get.
What's that?
And the more data centers we all get.
Right, well, yeah, so if they have to build a new generating facility to accommodate, the data centers,
Yeah.
which they're paying for, we're gonna end up, if we get switched over to the new generating facilities, we're gonna pay for the new power, but eventually they're gonna have to do it anyway, so we're gonna pay for it regardless. And I'm thinking that in business, usually the big customers help the little customers because they bring in so much extra money that a lot of times it'll lower costs. Well, that's how it works in my business anyway, so.
But not this big, because then it actually, overall, throughout the country, it'll end up raising the prices.
Right.
And it, yeah.
Yeah, in the Vantage case, the documents that were released show city attorney or city employees discussing that who's gonna pay for the cost of this increased electrical generation capacity and transmission. And they say, well, Vantage will pay about maybe 500 million because that place is huge. And they go, what's the full cost? And the person says to their other coworker, in the tens of billions. So it would be not that big, but that infrastructure that gets built, and Peter pays Paul for, ultimately they have the right to come to you. And that's
But
much
eventually,
like
doesn't the system, like, as a country as a whole, our infrastructure is weak. Like that is our weakest point, you know,
And that's-
as a
that's
whole.
just
Like
the
it
question.
needs to be upgraded.
Right, and
You
the
know.
question is this gonna make people have to pay more for their electricity? Probably.
We're gonna pay more regardless.
Right.
Similarly, at the CLE that Chris Smith gave, he talked about, one of the problems that small cities like we have is the overall levy. Essentially, the city and the other taxing districts, the value is gonna go down by being a neighbor of that, which is ludicrous. But that's kind of the effect that it can occur in growth that doesn't benefit themselves.
Okay, I've seen studies in Pennsylvania and there's another place where the overall tax levy has decreased. There was a decrease in poverty. Like there was a substantial decrease in the amount of poverty and the taxes in all of it.
That's their hope.
I'm not
That's
saying, no,
what
this
sells.
is what happened, like legit data in Pennsylvania. This, not talking hopes and dreams. I'm talking about white paper stuff to that whole tax thing.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that. Like, yeah, that we're all worried about our properties values going down, but the mill also does that too. Or did that.
I think
They employ a lot of people and it really didn't affect that. But statistically, across the country, with the database, the electrical cost to people has gone up as much as 50%, and that's statistically.
So is gas prices.
Yes.
No, but she's saying as a result of these things.
So is gas prices though. Like, so is eggs.
So, right, so don't make it worse for them.
yeah, that would be my
Well,
thing
I
too.
understand that, but everything else
My
is
neighbor's
going up.
house is on fire, get me the gas can.
No.
Did you see the article about, Lake Tahoe residents losing their power?
No.
I did.
Yeah, yes.
And they're gonna make sure the data center has
Keeps
power.
operating, but the residents.
Yeah, or Wyoming where there was damage, or like it caused, like some sort of bacteria in the waterways. I mean,
Once they get
can't
this
drink
data
that.
center in, they don't care what happens to you.
Yeah.
All they care
Or when
about
we
is
start
getting
having
the
health
data
problems
center.
because of it, and then you can't reverse what happened, that's my problem. I mean, I have family that lives here, I'm planning on selling my house either way in the next 6 months, but I have family that's gonna still be living here. And then, did you hear about this one girl, she has seizures, and they lived right by a data center, and they actually had to pick up their family and move because their child was having so many seizures from the noise. And then once they moved and got away from the data center, the seizures weren't as bad.
And a lot of families on the west side can't move. It gets built, some of you are not gonna be able to get away from it.
They're not gonna.
Well, I'm sure they'll probably buy their property from them.
I actually made a little visual thing myself, actually, you know, so on paper, I like that too, rather than all the data. What I've experienced now, since the data signs are up, some of the homes on the river are not selling. And that's a fact, you know,
Yeah.
because I pay attention to all that, you know.
But the housing market's also kind of down too.
When I know homes that sold within 30 days on the river, some of these homes have been there now for 4 months.
My neighbor's house sold on the river, because I live by the river. My neighbor's house sold in less than a week. And that was before any of this. Because I don't care if once it's built, it's gonna, my property is gonna depreciate even more. And I put too much down money to have that happen into my house.
So if the data center does come in, again, I know it's arbitrary in terms of how many jobs. It could be 20, they're talking 200. I guess any jobs to me are.
200 jobs that are gonna come in are gonna run machinery to build those things. And when that's built and done, they're gone.
Well, that's
The
gonna-
roads are gonna be wrecked.
Are they local people who are getting the jobs, or is it somebody from across the world getting them?
You could put that in the community benefits agreement.
Yeah.
Too. Like hiring locals.
Yes.
You could also create I forget what it's called, some type of fund where you can put the amount of money that they're supposed to be paying X amount of employees into like a trust, basically, to where even if they do leave, that they still owe you that money to pay for these X amount of workers. So you could say, if they want to say, hey, we want 200, we're gonna have 200 employees. Okay, perfect. Put that amount of wages into a trust that no matter what happens for 10 years, we have that money secured.
So, to try to finish as quick as I can, what I understand of this, 20 to 200 jobs, we would get new electrical infrastructure. I know that eventually we're all paying some money for that. The goal, in my opinion, if the state could get their act together, would easily say, any new generation you guys need, you have to build. We can't put it on the people, and I feel like that's where they're going with it. But we would have new electrical infrastructure coming into Wisconsin Rapids so that we can bring manufacturing in, and we need to be able to do that because we're not an attractive target for a lot of manufacturing businesses. It's just not off the freeway. It's not. We got some downsides to that fact. So having power here that's inexpensive would be relatively inexpensive would be a bonus for the community, so that we can bring in manufacturing and more jobs. The taxes somewhere, again, we can look at it and say, bring in more money, and the government could have used the money, and then that money leaves after a certain time, and that's what. But at the same time, while it's here, it could be anywhere. It could be substantial. It could be talking about like leases that they're getting paid off leases.
Well, that sounds a little bit kind of like a cop-out. Gee, we gotta wait till we get the data center in so we can get this energy thing, whatever you call that, the electrical grids, whatever, and then we can get some new businesses in here. No, we need to be looking for new businesses that are going to actually make some jobs. Give us at least 200 or 300 jobs instead of a stupid data center that's going to give us maybe 20 jobs after it's in here.
We do work every day on bringing in businesses is not easy because it's like these businesses are looking at every municipality in the United States to move to and who's going to give them the most money to do that. So our best bet, in my opinion, is while we're doing that and while we're courting these really big businesses to come in to make brake parts and stuff like that, which again, they've come here, they've looked at it, saw the power, saw the land, and they went somewhere else. Maybe we didn't offer enough. But the environment of the community has to be, we got to train our kids and our young people and old whatever age you are, to learn, to want to build businesses, to grow small businesses and hire an employee, whether it starts in your garage or your house or, you get your brick and mortar place. We start these businesses, we get 500 of these going that have 20 employees. Now we're starting to build our own economy from within versus, catering to people on the outside. Granted, I understand that this is a data center. This is a unique property that has the ability to support this. And if we handle all the 6 entities or 6 issues that we focus on, the electricity, and again, we can go back and forth. If the electricity is not on WWLC, and I'm saying, somehow, some way it's going to come around to us, but that's going to happen even if we put up a data center or not. Our electric rates are going to continue to go up. It's just a fact. It's always been that way. And as data centers are coming out.
Not that much. Not at that rate.
It probably will because they're going to build them, and they're going to build new generation facilities. Whether we have them here or not, we're going to participate in that. I understand your perspective on that. But water going in, water coming out, if we can handle those things and monitor it and enforce it, the noise is the biggest issue. And I understand that. I don't want the noise. Nobody wants the noise, and we have the ability to try to force them to have noiseless systems, emergent systems that emerge this in water. They are being done, they're being built. Why can't we bring them here? If they say no, then we have the power to say no conditional use permit. I hope the fact that they let us even be a part of the conversation is because we're trying to welcome people to the community. We're trying to figure this stuff out and go forward. Again, when I tell you about the things that are the issues and what we're doing to try to handle them and take care of them, it's not that I'm saying that I want this. I'm saying if we are able to do this and it goes through and we have a conditional use permit in place that monitors and enforces this and we have a community benefits agreement or developers agreement if you want to change the term on it, and that gives us all these other things that are there, and we're making a lot of extra money on taxes. and we have some extra jobs, and it's possible that this industry will bring in other industries with it because it is technology and it is the future of the world, whether we want it to be or not. It is coming, whether we participate in it. So I think there's a lot of things that can happen. The main thing we have to focus on is the pollution on the diesel generators and the noise.
What's gonna
No
happen?
water
And the
there.
lights.
Now the water's taken care of. The lights are okay. Have you been to the Raptors Stadium?
We're not talking the Raptors, we're
Well, I'm
talking the
saying,
Raptors
this is-
times 100.
This is what I'm saying though.
You
The
bring in
lights
revenue
now
with the
Are
rafters.
directional lights where you can't even see the light, but it shines directly where it's needed, and that's just the latest technology. So it's, to have overflow, light in a neighborhood is ridiculous, and we won't let them do it.
They did the same lights over at Washington Field and it improved it massively.
Yeah, and there's no, the light over, what do they call it, light pollution.
They leave it on 24/7?
Well, they're.
I do have concerns, so we're talking about,
In a Fremont area.
Right. Who's gonna still see it though, besides, I think there's a few neighbors that are closer than they probably should be because they're supposed to, eminent domain them out when the mill took over that part of the land. Outside of that, it's going to be encapsulated by trees and fences, so. Again, we have to be the ones to monitor it and say, you can't, you're not allowed to do that, now we're fining you this much, because in the community benefits agreement, we can have fines in there, we can fine them a certain amount of their income, we can do all this stuff, and that's what we wanna do if this comes, we have the ability to
so
do these
their
things.
discharge water that would go with the wastewater
Well,
treatment,
wastewater treatment center.
is that monitored 24/7? Because I'm curious to know how that town in Wyoming wound up contaminated where they had to close their treatment plant down for a couple days to get the problem fixed from the data center.
Yeah. Our guys monitor all the industrial accounts all the time, and they catch what they need to catch when they need to catch it, so they can set it straight and make sure that they're pre-treating their water before it comes. What those chemicals are that they're using, I don't know the difference between them.
I'm just curious how it would have, because I'm sure this place in Wyoming did too.
They actually don't have the capacity at that facility that you're specific when you're talking about. It's Cyclospora bacterium. They don't have the capacity to regularly test for that, so that's why that didn't get caught right away. That's another concern is, are we gonna have to upgrade our testing at our water facility, which sounds like that's a very good idea. And who pays for that? And can we make them pay for virtually all of that?
Oh, and to tack,
Everybody pays for that testing.
Well,
They
and-
pay for
no,
it.
if we
The company-
upgrade.
The company themselves, yeah.
well, to tack on to that, so this is a question that I've been wanting to ask, so, and I would like you maybe to get your input. So it says no chemicals will be discharged to the network within their, with sewer discharge. So first off, I don't understand how that's possible. There's, biocides and other microbial growth that can happen that they need to prevent. So I don't think this is truthful. Second off, the chemicals that are typically used within these closed loop systems release a bunch of PFAs, PFAS, PFOs, whatever. Now that is something that our wastewater treatment system does not treat for currently because they test for it, but they're under the level. Now this could bring them over the threshold, right? Which would mean that we would also have to have filters, like charcoal filters, these giant filters that are super expensive. I don't know if you ever looked into the amount that these things cost. And I want to make sure that there's all of these different little complexities that if they're not covered, we're covering the cost for. So that's something that I'm be concerned about as well. Like first off, why is this saying that there's none? Second off, how much would that cost and will they cover it? And that is something that will be continually needed to filter for past the time of, even if they're
It's
obsolete.
written like that because they plan on having a water treatment site, a water treatment facility or plant on site. So maybe that's why they're saying that. So it's being treated before it's released into our wastewater system.
It could be, and that's why I'm curious why it never says anything about chemicals used in a closed loop system at all. Like they don't mention it at all.
Ocean Spray's been in trouble before. All the other places. Yeah. I'm not saying that that it's okay. It's going to happen. What? Right. It's monitored. It's stuff that it's monitored for.
So I did have the wastewater treatment center people that run it and are connected countrywide to everybody else. Checked with the wastewater treatment centers for the data centers down in Loudoun County, and the test centers that actually test the water for them. And according to all of them, there is no issues. There is nothing that they've come across that they've tested for from data centers that's an issue.
But that doesn't mean that it can't happen,
Absolutely.
like
So
depending on what they discharge.
monitor all of our
Yeah,
industrial accounts.
because that I've seen time and time again across the county. So I'm curious. I mean, if I could find these articles and send them the exact county or municipality, then they can connect with those wastewater treatment facilities and see why that happened there. But I'm curious for your input, because if you know about closed loop systems, that's not possible for them to not have chemicals in it, correct?
I'll try and explain it as best as I can using something that's in your everyday work. Everybody in this room has already been in automobiles that use an internal combustion engine. It uses a coolant, we call it antifreeze, it's mostly glycol. And how it works is the coolant circulates through your engine, goes to a radiator. The radiator interacts with air, which cools it, but the air doesn't touch the chemical. But through cooling fins, it cools that chemical and circulates back and cools the engine again. That's a closed loop system. Okay, versus if you had a boat that was in the river and you're piloting that boat down the river, what's it doing? It sucks water out of the river, runs it through the engine, and spits it right back out. So if you've got, gasket leaks or whatever in your boat, you're going to be putting chemicals back in the river. So you want a closed loop system.
So, but sorry, not to cut you off, but also kind of cut you off. So there are chemicals. So you're saying it has to have a coolant. It has to have something in it.
But it's not running alongside the water.
Right, but it's in it. And if it's ever discharged, right? Because if they ever have to,
Well, I don't know if there's coolant in it or not. Go ahead.
or it has to have something to prevent bacterial growth.
It's a big enough system, and it's going through heated areas.
Yeah, but that's not how water.
Frozen.
But that's not how water works.
They try not to freeze it when cars are outside in the winter, so they have to have
Yeah.
freeze so it doesn't freeze.
Yeah, but I still think there's bacterial growth that can happen from the water. So that's why I'm saying, I think there has to be something in it. That's why I'm a little confused with that.
What happens to the antifreeze that's changed out of the closed loop?
Again, I wouldn't say that this is antifreeze.
I know, I'm just saying as an example, you're using that as an example. And it's wonderful to have a closed loop, but then we all know that the antifreeze in your example has to go somewhere. So, just extrapolate it out, and no matter what happens, that closed loop has to be recycled eventually.
That becomes
It's
a
not
question of
infinite.
the type of chemical that you use.
Correct.
And recycling that may be necessary. And the other point is, just like in your car, sometimes a leak develops.
Exactly.
Okay? So you have to detect it as it's going on, one of those detection methods. And I'm sure they have process, but of course we want to know what that is. So it's not like they're going to take water that they either get from our utility or our river and run it through their equipment and then dump it to the treatment plant. It doesn't work that way.
But there are maintenance that they do with these
I'll
closed
talk to your
loops.
husband first. Go ahead. I've been waiting for a
I
while.
think you already answered my question.
Oh, yeah, okay, appreciate it.
What was
Go ahead.
that? What was your question?
Well, mainly was for like this data center coming in is going to generate revenue for the city, and the question was, has there been any thoughts on like how that extra revenue could benefit the residents of the city?
Yeah, there's, some people of the money, we have to lack account because the government is, and again, I understand what I'm saying here, so bear with me. It's not the most efficient when it comes to saving money or using it. It can get put into operations really fast. I would say that we have an issue with infrastructure, with roads, because we can't keep up with what we're doing. We need more money to do it, and we only want to take out so much debt in order to rebuild the roads. So we have to kind of structure it over, a 100-year period, I guess, to kind of keep our roads as best as we can. I would like to lock that money down so that it can't just disappear, but again, I I'm the mayor, I don't really have a vote in the whole thing unless they tie. But try to lock it down and use it for specific things so that we can do the upgrades that need to happen faster. Again, we don't know. I understand what people are saying. This could be a short-lived thing. If quantum computing is next, and all of a sudden it changes everything, and we, shrink these buildings back down into our pocket. I don't know. It's all possible. But how many years is that going to take? And in the meantime, do we want to? I think we want to at least entertain. Can we set up a data facility that is cutting edge and is safe for the community and brings in a ton of money for the community? Because I don't think we'd want to just say outrightly no to the good things that it could bring if we can build it in such a way that it's safe for the community and it's not loud and noisy. Like, that's what I want to get to. I want to find out if we can build a cutting edge facility, and if that's possible, let's force them to do it to the best of our ability and monitor it and enforce it, and also make some money off of it so that we can run our city, because we do need money to run the city. I don't want it to be the only thing, but I do want it to be part of the conversation because money is important.
I'd like to see where these things are going to generate the money.
Well, again, I was trying to say before that it's based on, and this is calculated from the state. The state is the one who assesses the industrial capacity, industrial businesses, and it's based on, for this, it's based on the leases, the amount of square feet, the amount of the leases divided by square feet. And if this is a million square feet, and it comes out to, let's just say on the lowest possible end that I've heard so far is 500, but let's just say it's $100 per square foot. We're talking about $100 million. And again, I don't want to throw it out there because I don't know for sure what we're talking about, but that surpasses everything. And it's a game changer for everything. And I've heard these leases going out at the $1,600 per square foot. So I don't know, and I don't want to plant false hopes. I'm just saying there's a reason for us to follow this and figure out if it can't be done, that's pro for the community, and we can get a company that is willing to do that. And again, I don't know if this is the company or not, but we should at least follow it to the end in order to figure out if this is all possible and how much it can help us. That's all I really want to do. Can I get her in?
Is there any way we could consider maybe some cleaner energy? Look at our mill polluted our air and everything. And, try to do something that's good for the planet a little bit.
If you're talking about wind and solar, we can do some of it, but it wouldn't be enough to be able to do.
I think that would still be better than the AI center,
I agree, again, if you can build enough of that, because that's the downside, is it's space hungry versus, material.
Right, people in Rome
The
don't
next
like
cleanest
the-
is gonna be nuclear, but that's a whole different conversation there,
A
right?
nuclear plant would be fun.
Well, my question is related because kind of circling back, kind of circling back to the electrical cost. What does Alliant Energy use to generate their electricity? Are they using natural gas? Are they using coal? Okay, so if they're using natural gas, then it's not going to be just our electrical costs that are going to go. Our natural gas costs are going to skyrocket because Alliant is going to be taking natural gas that currently is being used by us to generate more electricity. So we've got this vicious cycle. Natural gas costs go up, coal goes up. Just the cost of it. And again, it cycles back to, solar. I think it's very ironic that our assemblyman is fighting a solar farm out in the town of Rome. And that for some reason, solar farms are considered such a heinous thing for our environment, when they're proving that when especially in places like Sweden and in Europe, when they're building solar farms, that land is still used for grazing land, livestock, for sheep production. It's not like the solar farm takes the farmland out of production. And yet it's very ironic that what's happening is, at the same time we need electricity, our government is putting up every single roadblock possible to prevent that kind of electricity to be generated. So,
Have you gone
so
out on range line and looked at that solar system out there where they cut down 3,000?
I'm not talking about the existing one, I'm talking about,
They just
there
built
are,
it half a dozen years
sir,
ago.
let me finish, please. All I'm saying is that there are developments in solar that are being used that do not hurt cropland, that do not hurt grazing land, that cattle can coexist, sheep can coexist. It's not like it takes it out of production. Maybe that one out there is a bad system.
You should really go look at it.
Where is
I
that?
have.
That's like the data centers, but like you could use that same exact argument, but switch solar panels,
Yeah.
solar farms with data centers. The same thing that you've been saying is everything that the mayor's been saying is,
Well,
what if we can look for better, like maybe this pink group or I can't remember the name, but yeah, like maybe they're not the ones for us, but what if we get an innovative group that does all the cool things where they're using the heat, the excess heat to heat the greenhouses, that they're actually putting money and funds into the community where they're, all those things, like,
That's what we're fighting.
why can't we explore those
I think it's just
options?
ironic
Right.
that
I understand that, I'm just saying, what if you switch the words around?
I think that,
Same argument.
I think
I mean,
you're
you
saying
can-
something, you're saying something both right, which is, it's a lot of electrical, and it has to come from somewhere. So why would we actually use it on an AI data center? Everyone probably knows at this point that AI is marketed to major corporations as a way to cut their employee costs, to make it easier to fire people. Why? Even if it were silent, even if it didn't use any water, why would we, Wisconsin Rapids, who saw what happened when the mills were gutted and sold again and again, why would we want to get into bed with major corporations who hide behind shelves and their only goal is to get more Americans fired? That's the thing. More Americans fired.
Yeah. I know this stuff.
There's a flip side to that though too, because I get what you're saying. So, and corporations are going to do what's best for their bottom line. I get that. But at the same time,
You don't abdicate your moral responsibility because you signed a document called an article of incorporation.
So what about this where they didn't fire people from the mill. We stopped buying paper. Like once you stop, like if we want these centers to go away, we have to get rid of our phones, our computers, we have to do all this stuff because we're the ones giving them trillions of dollars. Like we're doing that.
That's a little different though.
No,
That's a little.
We switched
That,
from
that's.
paper and we switched from paper.
Yeah,
to
but you're
computer.
saying you're
The wheels
equating
gone.
us using phones to us having these hyperscale data centers. I mean, come on.
But it's all,
There's-
it's all interconnected.
It's
Every
that stuff,
single thing
but
you
we've
do.
been having that for how many decades now?
You
We
wanna know
have-
something new?
But AI is new. Crypto mining is relatively new. Those things are new. Those are not things that we as a society have been using for the past decades. I mean, come on.
But our economy is going to go onto our phones eventually.
I mean, but it's not only the cloud, right? These data centers aren't just the cloud. These are also AI and crypto. I mean, there is way more things that are happening past just us using our phones.
Right.
I mean, that's.
But everything is coming to our phones. Like
Everything's
it's
already
growing.
on our phones.
Right, everything is.
We've already
is
been
growing.
using our phones for how many decades?
The apps,
But
all these
we've
things.
already been using it for decades.
Again, we're evolving, right? This is an evolution
Yeah,
of everything.
AI is the new evolution, and that's a revolution I don't want to be a part of. I mean, it's a revolution against it I'd be a part of, so.
We're a part of it right here. That's what we're talking about.
Should we
Yeah.
advocate our privacy to a place like Palantir, where their AI engine is doing nothing but gathering data on every single one of us at every single step of the way, with flock cameras that we have, and all of that stuff. And that's part of what AI is doing, because they're taking away our basic rights to privacy to live in this country.
Yeah.
And it's more than just being able to Google something, and it's more than just our doctors being able to transcribe our visits and give us summaries. That's a decent use of data. But when Palantir is literally collecting us every 24 hours a day for government surveillance, I'm not sure that I want AI to be doing that for me and for you and for everybody here. And do we want to be part of that? You know, it's dystopian. It sounds like a science fiction novel, but it's not science fiction.
I remember these.
Check with Peter Thiel and his theories of what's going on in society and what he thinks of humankind. The guy that's running Palantir, and it's frightening. And that's what I'm afraid of is one of the ultimate goals of AI, is to literally destroy our humanity. So if we want to be a part of that, great. If we want to have a short-term economic gain, great. Once upon a time, our city had a business district that our mayor and council decided to destroy with a mall, because the mall, everything was going to a mall, and the country was being mauled. And look at what happened to our mall. It made the developers wealthy. It destroyed half of our downtown. So we're one of the only cities that I know that has like no town center, because we had a short-sighted decision for a short-term economic gain, and they failed to look at the long-term implications of what happened. We don't learn from history, and we're not looking to the future to see what the future is going to bring. You know, Marshall McLuhan talked about the medium is the message, and it means that content doesn't matter. It's what's happening. It's the medium that's driving what is going on.
I agree.
The printing press was, you know, writing was replaced by the printing press. Printing press was replaced by, you know, newspapers. Suddenly we had word processing that destroyed linear writing, and on and on. And now the internet and AI is destroying writing. You know, we're not looking far enough into the future. We're looking at a short time period in our history of this town. And it's going to be a very consequential decision, because it could go south very easily. And the mall is nothing. That's small potatoes to destroy half our town. This could destroy us. And if you believe people like Alvin Toffler and some of the other futurists, it's going to destroy civilization, you know, our civilization as we know it, because it's killing jobs, it's killing art, it's killing music, you know, it's killing our culture at the same time. So this sounds kind of philosophical, but it's beyond economics.
Well, it is the economic model that is focused on efficiency.
Exactly.
Efficiency. And that means that you do more with less, and it can mean less jobs.
We have an economic system that's built on continual growth. I don't understand how that is possible.
Yet we live in a finite environment.
Correct.
And we have to live within the bounds of our environment, but we're not thinking that way. That's not what our economic model is all based on. It's all based on short-term gain. And that ultimately is the fundamental problem. And if you don't question the economic model, we just continue to go down that same path.
Right.
So this is what I have to have this conversation with my kids as they're coming of age and having to work and go to school and all that stuff. And they ask me one by one, they're like, is this it? I just go to work now and I just keep, making money and turn it over. I'm like, I'm going to teach you how to work to do the system. We all have to go to work and find a way to make money so we can feed ourselves. And if I die, I need to know that you guys can take care of yourselves. But in the meantime, if you can come up with a better way and you can implement it worldwide or countrywide or even citywide, by all means, you have my support.
There may not
if you want to change this stuff, then let's change it.
That's what we're doing.
Otherwise, we're moving forward to say what's coming as we evolve in time. This is
statistically what they're finding is the people, the part of our population right now that's probably the most critical and the most eye-rolling about AI, and that they can't stand AI graphics and AI slop that's coming out, are teenagers. The younger the younger population are already writing off AI because they're sick and tired of it, they don't like it, they want to move on already. And it's some of us that's embracing it rather than our younger population. Because they can see what your kids are saying. There may not be work. You can teach them about work. But AI is going to eliminate work.
We can always find work. We're humans. We're the humans. We're the ones that create. Computers just follow behind and help us create, like.
Hey, I'm a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And the slop that I see coming out of AI right now in our community with every single bar and venue cranking out promo and posters using AI is putting people like me out of work because they don't want to spend the money to have something designed by a human. Okay? I mean, it's eliminating entire swaths as things have done historically, but it's destroying swaths of our culture and swaths of things that used to be human-driven that are now just being done by some bartender that's got to run and make a poster. So, and look at musicians, right?
I can tell you that my boy teaches over in college down in Milwaukee, and he had 23 of his students that all of them did AI. Took him about 5 minutes. He said, "You guys all get F's." You got
Yeah, see,
knowledge on this.
I wish you were right, but the young people are the biggest users of AI. I work in education. They are the people who know.
I worked for 33 years in education.
And he's
Congratulations. I worked in visual and the music arts. So I know full well what
this
kids
is my
are
27th
up
year,
to.
so yes, they're very much using AI.
They're
He's a
using
history
it.
teacher too.
Yes,
Right, and they're not.
You're saying they're the ones abandoning it, brother. They're the ones embracing it.
Well,
If
they're
you take
embracing it
back,
because they
then
don't have to write.
Yes.
I don't disagree, but
You know,
don't say they're not the ones
The
embracing it.
Atlantic this month came out with the death of reading.
Yeah, we're working hard to
So,
fight that.
you know, I mean,
So,
yes,
excuse me,
they're
I have a-
embracing
I have
it
a
because
question.
they're getting away with it.
Change this here.
Let's go back.
But generative AI,
So,
they
getting back
generally don't like.
To, I believe at a previous meeting, we had talked about this lawyer, Chris, perhaps isn't all 100% working at our best interest. Whether it's consciously or unconsciously, that's happening. You had said that you could look into possible different representation. Have you done that? Is that still a consideration?
Some other people, outside of that, just to get a perspective, a different perspective. So we'll continue looking into it.
So I think it's
If
important
going
to talk to,
optics wise, then we can look into that.
Somebody less controversial.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's about optics.
So I know that you've talked about infrasound in like other past meetings and stuff, and saying that like you can't really monitor it or enforce it. So, and I know, so I mean, well, according to the community development team, there are ways to actually monitor. There are technologies nowadays.
They are, that's great.
So, is that something that we could possibly include within zoning ordinances as well, that you could bring to the table to talk about, this is a new type of noise that we haven't had to deal with before that does cause this sickness, illness, so we want to make sure we get ahead of that curve?
The way I see this, everything's on the table because we have to do it. I mean, we have to do everything we can to make sure you guys feel safe and we feel safe in the community. Otherwise, we are idiots. If we're gonna try to play this out and see how things go and try to figure out if we can get a company to do, the best data center possible and it's safe and we make money and it's doing what we want it to do because it's economic development, that's great. But if it fails, then we're the ones to blame. So it's a big responsibility on us, and none of us want that to go that way. I hope everybody knows that. If they don't,
I still
sit
don't
in
know
our
how we're
shoes
gonna
for
make
a little
money.
bit.
How are we going to make money on that?
Taxes, the taxes on the lease. So it's property taxes that are based on the leases that are being paid to the data center for storage.
Who's gonna pay that?
The the people who lease the space. So it could be the big four, it could be other companies, I mean, it could be smaller companies that are out paying.
Okay, so they're gonna build a building, but the only way we're gonna get taxes is out of the square footage that is rented out.
Yeah, the square footage based off the leases that are rented out.
Or the fine.
So if they don't lease it in a way that you can see, we get the tax of their house.
Right.
Right?
In a way you can see.
Yeah.
So it stays empty if nobody,
Right.
are we taxing the warehouse?
Or if they use the processing power for their own purposes in-house and sell the result, then we get nothing.
Yeah, good question. We'll have to look into it. Typically, they build these so that they can have leases, people that lease the space come in and lease it, otherwise they wouldn't build it. Most people that build their own and keep them internal. Like we have systems here in town that are, rather large data facilities that are just for the hospital or other companies. Like we've had these in our community for 60 years and better. There's been 65 or so of them in Wisconsin.
Different types though.
Yes, but no, right? They're smaller.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
a little more-
Not the hyperscale ones. Way different levels, ranges, right? I mean, it's what we talked about earlier.
They're computers, they got a cool.
Similar-ish, I'd say, but on a way larger scale.
What do we get for taxes?
That guy is growing,
Yeah.
What do we get for taxes now on them, all that land and then building?
So it's been in,
Nothing, it's in court.
no, it's, the entire mill has been in, what do you call it, conflict where they, the Billerud, I think for the last 6 years, Billerud has put that, contested thing. They've contested the taxes, so it's been caught up in the state courts for 6 years. So we're collecting money but saving the money because we don't know exactly what we may have to pay back. And then as the buildings come down, then that takes that out of the tax base. So yeah, it's shrinking. That's where our budget is shrinking. We had to find $850,000 last year in a shortfall in the city budget. It's gonna be something similar this year, I'm assuming. So we are shrinking. We're gonna have to shrink our services. We're gonna have to shrink the workforce unless we can generate new funds. And that's easier said than done.
Are we getting funds from all the people in jail and stuff? I mean, how does that work? How does that work with this big jail that it looks seriously like a prison downtown? Are we getting any money from that, our city? I would think, I mean, we're housing all these people.
That's a county building and a county service.
So that actually, it's helping the town? I mean, because it looks like a prison.
It saves us $1.4 million per year in not housing inmates in Wapaka. So it's up to you to decide whether spending $100 million to say 1.4 is smart, but it's really cool inside.
Well, there was
I don't
Boy, it is beautiful in there.
Besides that, the old one was falling apart and it was a horrible mess. So it's not just that it's cool inside, but it is cutting edge.
The old one was.
Looks like a prison.
Well,
Inside it's
so
cool.
yeah, that's the new panopticon. Everything old is new style construction. So everybody can be watched from central areas. The old one did have a problem because it had long straight lines, so it was harder to monitor everyone. And
They still can't monitor.
inmates were,
everyone.
yeah, right. They still can't monitor everyone, but inmates were killing themselves.
Right.
Oh.
So I do have a question. While we're on the jail topic, I want to switch it a little bit here. I'm coming back because I forgot.
I'd like to take a tour through there.
Why didn't you go?
Yeah, all you have to do is.
Mayor,
follow
can
the
you-
law.
And will you explain the status of
the jail project, Mayor.
Up-
The jail,
Go ahead, finish it.
the jail project. I feel it's extremely important. I have mentioned this to Mr. Penscover also, and he's on board with this, I believe, that when I worked there, we had a Huber program type thing work through our office. But one thing that I was assured by the sheriff, that we will not have state prisoners in there. So rest assured, if we ever house state prisoners in here, this town will not be the same. So,
Why that?
state prisoners last longer than a year. Some of them come from out of state, and the family members come in here, the crime rate comes up. That actually happened back in the day when Brian Elms was the sheriff.
Yeah.
And that stayed for 5 years that way by having, made a ton of money, the county did, you know, but state prisoners, you know, it was not good. The crime rate went up for 5 to 10 years after that. So just a little
I agree.
FYI.
And again, it would be something I talked to the sheriff about that a while back, and he said that, again, you gotta trust people at some level, otherwise we're not gonna exist as a society anymore. And the intention was to be able to house the people from here, and there weren't going to be housing people from outside of the county. And I don't know where that stands right now. You know, it's my understanding that it's still how they want to handle that. Yes, Mike.
Mayor, you said earlier that the building that formerly housed number 16 machine may be coming down. Can you elaborate on that? What?
Yes, it may be coming down.
What building
Don't know
is
for sure
that?
yet.
Is it a nice one?
It's a 650,000 square foot building with 2 floors with massive holes in the second floor. It's designed in such a way for the machine, 1 block wide, 7 blocks long. Again, we've had some companies come in and take a look at it just to get it usable. Would be about $10 million. I think they were willing to invest about $400 million into doing what they needed to make it happen, but it didn't happen. We haven't had anybody else in a long time from around the world come to look at the building. So at this point in time, it costs them, I think, somewhere in the ballpark of $125,000 or $150,000 a month to keep heated in the winter, or maybe more than that. They don't want to do it again. So their thought is, now's the time to take it down, because if they don't take it down and everybody leaves and they walk away from it, then we're looking at that building for eternity, and it's just going to sit there and disintegrate.
That'd be MRD, end up taking that.
MRD possibly, I think, would get the contract if they agree to it. Again, I just can't say for sure until it happens. I guess that's maybe a fault of mine, but until the paperwork's through and they actually sign a dotted line, anything can happen until.
Because all those cement panels on there are all removable. They don't have to break them all up and smash them. They were all set with a crane. They could all be pulled off.
I'll talk to Jared about it, because you could build a new building out of that, right?
They can all be taken off. You know, that's how they set them all up.
Exactly.
So they don't even need dust and smash them all.
They were pre-stressed.
Pre-stressed concrete all winter long.
I don't know if they have the wherewithal and know-how to, they have to bring in crane.
You need a big crane.
I have a question.
I don't know what time is it here.
So Mayor, the rumor with the frozen food plants is not, it's just a rumor that's coming up here, huh? Rumor with the food processing plant, just a rumor, huh?
What food
I
processing?
just somebody said that there's a food processing plant coming up here. I said, yeah.
Oh, we don't do.
No, this is all the ones that are trying to grow in the community, but no big ones that I heard are coming. I know Americold is building a new cold storage facility.
Oh.
That's a funny one, right? Cold storage facilities, 250,000 square feet.
Hey, don't get me started on weirdos. Yeah. I work at one. I have a question. Has our city or community ever done a noise study on like what the current noise level like is at various times in the day?
Like you're saying in general?
In general, in general, well, maybe like in the industrial side of town, like a current like noise study, and then potentially taking those numbers and compare them to other data centers. But again, that would have to be a comparable data center. It'd have to be a comparable size, a comparable way of their running and cooling. You can't apples and oranges.
But why would you take it in the industrial area?
Because
Why
it's
would you not
in the
take it
industrial
where it's going to be built?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the city in general, but I'm just saying it's going to be built in the industrial area.
Like that, it'll never be anything but industrial in that area.
Right.
Well, if you're taking like you're talking about like an ambient environmental decibel
Right, like
level.
what is it currently right now?
Okay.
What
But
is
if you
it?
take it in the industrial area, that's one thing, but it should also be done, let's say, on the east side of town by St. Peter and Paul, because there's gonna be ambient noise there. I mean, you definitely need to do it from community-wide, because you can't just do it in one
And I get
location.
that, and you're
But
gonna have
I think it's a
noises.
great idea
You're
to
gonna
have a
noises.
baseline of ambient,
Yeah.
an ambient decibel level of this town.
A I'll talk with Joe, the engineer, and Kyle Kearns.
Just an idea, because that could be a baseline, and that could be like if this goes through in the community,
so
whatever.
I can kind of touch
They
on.
did
So
do
what?
that last week.
They did do it, the company, not the city. The company on our road on the corner of
Riverview Drive and Spring.
Spring Street.
That's
There
set
was a
for 24
microphone.
hours.
Oh, sure.
But only
Oh, that's
24
what
hours.
that Troy
24
bought.
hours in the time where there was roofing jobs being done, the jets were flying over, and we had a overly loud lawn tractor running for a couple hours. So their study, they left that up. Yeah, 24 hours shouldn't, it should be a lot longer.
Right, it
You
should
say
be
it's
through a
about trust.
multitude of days.
And
Right.
I wouldn't trust that data.
So yeah, Kyle Kearns was saying yesterday that that is something that has to be done in order for them, like part of the information,
baseline,
yeah,
Yes.
to pull in. But
Independent.
that is a really good question, because if that's the baseline, then yeah, that is off.
We will have to do that.
Especially if it's done by the company rather than our city having the person do it.
Again,
Our
let me
city
talk,
contracting
because
out.
we may have already done our own studies.
Okay.
We should do it again for this specific.
Well, and
Very
that should be
wise.
done in general, because I mean, we have you have the trains, the industrial park, like all the things. I mean, the landmine, not landfill.
Landfill, quarry.
Yeah, the quarry, you know, scares
But
the crap out of me every time they blast.
But I think that's a good point though about the houses, because you have the houses across the river.
Right.
So is there a noise study that also, is getting that base level as well as the houses off to the side of it, like, on the other side of the river? I mean, I think that's, needed.
Well, and that's where that one microphone was, is Spring Street, which is would be right
It's-
across
yeah,
the river.
We're
Yeah.
directly across from
Yeah.
the site that they want to build.
Gotcha.
And where we are, we can actually hear, because it does travel down the river.
Yep.
The R&R bar, or whatever it's called now, when they have music, we can hear it as plain as day.
On 34, yeah.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sit
So,
outside.
because the river, it really travels.
So
Yeah,
what was
it
life
does.
like when the mill was there then? Because that was pretty.
We bought ours after the
We
mill
bought it
closed.
when it
After
closed.
the mill.
But
I
the
was
mill
there, I
wasn't,
knew it
the
was
mill wasn't
closing.
24/7 though either.
Yeah, we just kind
I
of.
told him I was gonna sit at my pontoon and watch it tore down.
But it brought in a lot of money.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it was.
Because I lived along there too. The only time you could really hear it was from the wood yard.
Yeah, the wooden wood chips.
Just the occasional banging.
It still was not
I remember
24/7.
those huge, like,
You hear the steam noise.
Oh, the steam release.
Yeah, that's once in a while, not
Whereas-
24/7.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's-
this data center is gonna be all night grinding all night long.
It was intermittent, but
Yeah.
we're like literally right across the river from the mill.
I'm just saying.
But it wasn't constant, you'd get your bursts, but we've been there 30 years.
Well,
And then also the infrasound, but imagine if you could build this as an immersed system, right? Like they're doing it, they're building it and it's silent because it's sitting in water, there's no fans, there's no vibrations, there's no anything, so.
They're still
they've already
polluting the
come up
river.
with a better way.
Still polluting the river.
if we can, the top, obviously, I think that is one of the main things as far as our group is always concerned about. I mean, if two wrongs don't make a right. So just because of what happened with the mill, just because the mill was here for 120 plus years, doesn't mean that we need to bring something else in that's not going to bring jobs, that's going to take up 200 plus acres. I mean, we want to see something that has jobs, that takes up that much space. Like, we want to make sure that there's no pollution in any variety as well. I mean, that's the whole point. And if you're saying that it is the top tier of the line that you've seen, because we don't have to settle for less. So if you're looking at other countries, if you're looking at Sweden and Denmark, these people that, usually are in the top, I'd say, of how they treat their environment and communities, then I'd say that, if you can pull all of that together, like he said, it's a lot of ifs. So
Maybe we should start a committee, like an outreach committee that reaches out to some of these bigger corporations and bigger companies and start finding ways to attract.
I would love that, actually. I think that
Or
was
like
a
if there
fantastic
is a
idea.
city committee, I don't know if there's something that's like that maybe it's the chamber of commerce.
But again,
Are you talking about businesses in general, or?
Bigger businesses, like, or industrial.
Industry.
Like industry, like, is there something like working with the Chamber of Commerce, or I don't know how they work.
So we have the economic development
Yep.
department here that works with Synergy, which is the regional economic development company, which works with WEDC, which is the state economic development company, which works with the nation and works with the world to market everything we have. So we're marketing in every corner of the world right now to bring businesses to our community.
Is there like specific people within that work for like the city of Wisconsin Rapids that are that the words aren't
Marketing
yeah.
person, Kyle Kearns is gonna be the guy, and I guess I am also.
Okay.
Most people, when they come here, wanna meet them, they're just to see if they're welcome, or if they're not welcome. And usually you wanna, typically 99.9% of the time, we want to welcome businesses. So we put our best foot forward, we talk with them, we say, what do you need, what can we help you with? How do we make this process go, here's the paperwork, and things work out, and we bring in business. And then along came the Addisoners.
I like your enthusiasm. You know, I really do. I think sometimes, I know you guys are doing what you're doing, but sometimes you need more, a different energy source to get to that point. And I know like Kyle Burns, he's probably bogged down with all this other stuff going on. Last week, we all smelled what was in town, right? What did you smell?
Cheetos.
Yeah.
So that was dog plant. That was the dog food plant.
We need another fuel with
So
those.
they call me all the
people
time.
running money.
When I retired, I said, call the city. And they said, oh, we call the city. They didn't do nothing.
You need to put a
Well,
filter
we
on
did
that
some-
thing.
So,
You know,
so
so-
they get a bad batch of potatoes, and it's gotta work through the
Yeah,
system.
right, I know,
So-
we did it all the time, I used to call them, hey, you guys would do something.
Right.
I'm just fearful of compliance, that people will just sit and like, just be not using that energy to that right source, like, if you got this person here, energized, man, you're ready to rip her, oh, good.
We need to get a committee of people to go to this Kyle guy and say, let's work together, let's pull some people in,
Can
let's
you
do
have
it.
them put a new filter on there? Because I didn't smell it for a while, and now I'm smelling it all the time. It smells just like death.
They actually
It does.
contacted us and said, we know, and we're working on it, and we'll get this through the system as fast as we can.
I wasn't sure if it was a sewage plant or if it was
The
the
dog
dog food
food, yeah.
plant. And I thought maybe something was dead in my neighbor's yard. I was actually questioning it because all I could do was smell it when I went around the side of my house. It was horrible.
I smell money, I live
Oh,
over by,
it was
I
rotten.
live over by Quick Trip, right?
I can
by-
puke.
When my kids were young, they called it sweet puke.
It's horrible.
Money to me.
It's gross. All
But
right.
they used to change the filter every so often. I never would smell it.
So next Wednesday is back at the library. It's gonna stay at the library from now on, downstairs, or we'll be upstairs. And if there's things we can implement that would actually help, instead of rehashing the same things over and over, to help the city and the community make the best decisions possible.
I think it'd be helpful to have some of the, like
The
what you
experts.
mentioned, some of the experts.
Yeah.
The city lawyer, Kyle Kearns, you know, Courtney.
You could also recap.
I smell it